Hi, um, I'm gonna do another video today about expressions and sayings, idioms that don't really translate, but that I find interesting. And this time, I like to go to a lot more languages in the world. So I've collected a dozen different idiomatic expressions, different sayings from no less than 10 different languages around the world, and I like to explore them all and we'll sort of say what they mean in English because I find it super interesting that we have every language that brings its own little nuggets of wisdom and its own little metaphors to the mix when we're talking about concepts that many of us, even who speak different languages, can relate to. And so here we go. And so, of course, like I said, I wanted to collect expressions from different languages around the world. So I got about 10 of them, 10 different languages. And I hope you'll find these expressions just as interesting as I do. So here we go. Now, the first language I want to mention is Swedish, and they have an expression that's half a dozen words or so. It's written there in italic right under Swedish, and it translates as to slide in on a shrimp sandwich, which to me is kind of interesting because we think of Swedish cuisine. Most of us think of meatballs, and this shrimp is a higher class of food, basically. And so, what does this expression mean? Well, that's why I put the little picture of the little baby with a silver spoon in his mouth there, because we have similar things in English. Um, Someone who slides in on a shrimp sandwich is someone who has not really worked for anything that they have, and they don't really appreciate all the work that others have done to go into it. Um, in English, well, we do talk about being born with a silver spoon in your mouth, like super privileged. But this also brings to mind a baseball metaphor. Of course, in American English, we have lots of metaphors involving baseball. And so we say that somebody is born on third base and they think they hit a triple. Pretty much, they didn't work for anything to get there, and yet they're giving themselves all the credit. So that's what sliding in on a shrimp sandwich is all about. It's about not someone who doesn't work hard and doesn't appreciate the hard work of others. And fact is, uh, another baby image that comes to mind is, have you heard of the term Nepo baby? Like Nepo babies? These are people who have a lot of success in a certain career field, uh, but their parents had success in the same career field, so they have all these connections and whatnot to help the Nepo babies get their own success. Like, who has been accused of being a Nepo baby? Okay, Ben Stiller, for example, his father, Jerry Stiller, very famous in comedy and acting as well. Um, that's just one example of people who have been accused of being a Nepo baby. Um, so yeah, sliding in a shrimp sandwich, pretty much someone was born on third base and they think they hit a triple. Anyway, the next expression is from a language I'm a little more familiar with, Spanish, and I like the I like the metaphor here because it's about thinking about the immortality of the crab. And truth be told, crabs are not immortal creatures. I know that I, for one, have eaten many crab's legs and all that, proving that they are very much mortal like the rest of us. They're made of meat. Um, and so the fact that crabs don't have any immortality, if somebody in Spanish is thinking about the crab's immortality, they're daydreaming. So pretty much their head is in the clouds, they're daydreaming. And that's what we mean by it. And it doesn't seem to make a lot of sense, literally, because crabs are not immortal, but that's kind of the point of it. Anyway, so third language that I found an expression for is one I'm quite unfamiliar with. I won't even try to pronounce the four word Icelandic phrase that means no one becomes an unbeaten bishop. And it's thought that expression is a reference to Guðmundur Arason, who was a bishop like over a millennium ago, I think, long, long time ago. So that's why it's a daguerreotype and not a photo of him right above his name. And he was said to go through a lot of hardships to become a bishop. And why do I have that picture of the muscle man there, the bodybuilder guy flexing his muscles? Because this expression, uh, although it references a bishop in Icelandic, in English we say no pain, no gain, right? It means you might get beaten up a little on your way to success. Same sort of deal. So the fourth language I want to talk about is Turkish. And see, this picture is a huge pile of shoes, of course, because what does this expression mean? Well, literally, it says one's shoes are thrown to the rooftop. So this is a reference to, so let's say there's a cobbler, a shoemaker who has a shoe store, but the shoes that he's making and selling are inferior, they're just garbage. And so then disgruntled customers, people wanting to warn others not to shop there, would throw their junk shoes on the rooftop of the store to end up making a big pile of shoddy shoes on the rooftop of a shoe store to warn anybody not to go in. So this is pretty much saying, no, this person, their work is bad, it's shoddy, don't even deal with them. And I find that interesting because I wonder how long ago that expression started, because people have been making shoes for a very, very long time. So anyway, the next language I wanted to touch on is French. And I love this expression, faut pas pousser mémé dans les orties, because, well, it literally means don't push granny into the nettles. So what do we use this for? Oh, that's why I have a picture of stinging nettles right there with a granny about to get pushed right into them. So what does the expression mean? It means don't push it or don't exaggerate. Like for instance, if somebody is hosting a party and you offer to bring them um, a nice bottle of champagne for the party, and then they ask you, oh, on top of that, could you also pick up some chocolate and strawberries so we can make a nice spread to go along with the champagne? That would be a case when you might tell somebody, faut pas pousser mémé dans les orties. Don't push it. That's too much, right? Um, and I think it's interesting that in English we also use push as a metaphor. Don't push it. Don't push Granny into the stinging nettles. But I love the imagery in French. because that really points out how very wrong somebody's actions are for exaggerating and really pushing it. So this next expression comes from a language that I'm completely unfamiliar with as far as how to pronounce anything. And that's, well, I've written it in two alphabets because in Korean, both of these alphabets exist. And so how the expression literally translates is you don't know the letter jiuk even after putting down a sickle. And what's it mean? It means, well, you're telling somebody they're ignorant, they don't know anything, kind of calling them an idiot. Um, because for one, the letter jiuk is the very first letter of the Korean alphabet. So that's like in English, somebody not knowing the letter A. And so what's the reference to the sickle? If you look at the under the expression, there's an arrow pointing down to a symbol there. That is how the letter jiuk is written. So it kind of looks like the shape of a sickle. That's why I put the old hand sickle there to demonstrate. So you don't know the letter A, which looks like a sickle, even if you've just been holding on to a sickle. That's, wow. Yeah, that's going beyond calling somebody ignorant. That's oblivious, stupid, etc. Which is, I just love this expression because of, well, how much that letter in Korean looks like a sickle. And so from the language Afrikaans, I've found two different expressions which both mean about the same thing. And what is that? It's in English, the idiom is you call somebody a scaredy cat or even a fraidy cat, which is why the picture of the cute little kitten who looks frightened in there. And I found these two expressions from Afrikaans interesting because they're both referencing being scared of vegetables, which to me that's really funny. I like the expression because vegetables are so not frightening. And so they're really making a good point here by these. And so the first expression, the one up on italics right under the word Afrikaans, about a dozen words long or so, means if somebody can be scared with a puff of peas, to scare them with a puff of peas. And what that is referencing is a little pea shooter, that's like the little boy is holding there in the folder, which is hardly a terrifying weapon, right? It's kind of almost as unthreatening as using a straw to shoot somebody with spitballs. Anyway, so not something to be afraid of. So therefore, if you tell, if you say that somebody is gets scared with a puff of peas, or you can scare them with a puff of peas, that's really calling them a scaredy cat. Now the other vegetable reference, the one on the right, a little lower down, um, if someone is afraid of cold pumpkin, again, there's scaredy cat. And I find this one interesting because I hate cold pumpkin on the inside. I don't know if you've had the experience of making a jack-o'-lantern for Halloween, and if the pumpkins are way too cold, they've been sitting outside. Oh, it's so cold in there, even painful. But still, that's not a frightening thing. That's not something that one would be scared off by. It's just annoying. Um, so again, I find it really interesting and a very good point to use vegetables as something. If someone is scared of vegetables, then they're a silly fraidy cat. They're a silly scaredy cat like Scooby Doo. although he's a dog, but expression still applies. Now, the eighth language that I'd like to mention is Danish, and this expression is for you might use it if you want to describe a situation as fishy or suspicious. You might use this one, which means there are owls in the bog. Now, the reason there's a picture of a wolf down there is it's thought that this expression came originally instead of ugler, owls. Originally, it was ulve, which means wolf. And then the thought is that there's a major dialect of Danish that the word for wolf, uller, which is the word in the middle there. And now the idea is that word from that dialect then got misinterpreted by others as ugler, owls. So maybe originally there's a wolf in the bog, and then it became there are owls in the bog. Now this is not really proven, because honestly, there's no bigger reason to be afraid of a wolf than owls. If you're small enough to be eaten by them, let's not forget owls are birds of prey, so they are murderous. They will kill every single day kill as often as they want to eat. And plus, it's interesting that wolves were actually extinct in Denmark for almost 200 years, from around 1820 something until about 10, 12 years ago. So, yeah, I'm not sure if that expression is older than when the wolves went extinct. Maybe it did start with wolf. And what leads me to think that maybe it was owls all the way is because there's a similar expression in Swedish of there are owls in the moss. And there's also a similar expression in Norwegian about there are owls in the bog. So I wonder, yeah, which one came first? I wonder if the Danish expression was first and was already owls by the time it got picked up in Norwegian and Swedish. Um, but anyway, it's an interesting thing. And in English, we don't really talk about wolves in the bog or owls in the bog. The expression that comes to mind is there's a snake in the grass. Somebody or something very suspicious, very not to be trusted. And anyway, so the ninth language I want to bring up is Mandarin. But this expression is a little less G-rated than the ones I've done earlier because it involves a slang word for to pass gas. So if you don't want to hear the English slang word for to pass gas, you might not want to watch this next slide. So fair warning, here we go. Now in Mandarin, the expression itself is if somebody takes their pants off to fart, they take their pants off to fart. What it means is, oh, your actions are unnecessary, completely over the top. You're being really extra here, you know? And because, well, the imagery is that it's so unnecessary to remove your pants in order to pass gas, right? And so silly, over the top, completely unnecessary. So someone is really, yeah, maybe even drama queen comes to mind as an expression. Mm. Now, the 10th language that I want to talk about is Italian. And I have two expressions in Italian. And the first one is pretty G-rated. The second one is maybe even PG or PG-13 rated because it has the A word and the S word in it. So if you don't want any vulgarity, you might want to stop watching the video now before we talk about the 10th language, Italian. And it has two similar expressions, which mean about the same thing. And they're both two-parters, two-part expressions where, okay, let me first explain what this means. You know how in English, sometimes to tell somebody good luck, we might say break a leg? That comes from the theater tradition, of course, but people use it in other contexts as well. And when we say break a leg, we're not actually wishing them harm. We're actually wishing them good luck and success for this. So we got two similar expressions going on in Italian. And the first one is one that's used in polite company. It's not vulgar at all. It's the polite way to go it. But the imagery is a little frightening. We say in Italian, in bocca al lupo, which means into the wolf's mouth. So imagine that in the wolf's mouth is a scary place to be. Uh-oh, I'm gonna not be alive anymore. But so when you say this to somebody in Italian, you're saying good luck, but it becomes bad luck if they don't say the reply saying crepi, which means may it die. So I really love that expression, well, that two-part expression, because it's like into the wolf's mouth with you, and then to keep it as good luck, oh, it's gonna choke on me, right? To me, that's funny. Now, so the very last expression is the one in italics, the two-parter in italics near the bottom of the page that I did not translate into English in writing anyway, because it has the A word and the S word. And this expression is also why there are the pictures of the backsides of some whales underneath the wolves there. Because, and this is a more vulgar expression, basically still meaning good luck. If you say in culo alla balena, you're saying into the whale's ass. And that's scary imagery. And what it brings to mind to me is, the story Pinocchio. And if you've ever seen Walt Disney's Pinocchio, you might remember there was a scene where you got Geppetto and Pinocchio are inside the giant belly of a whale named Monstro, and they do somehow make it out alive anyway. So that's funny to me that the whale is involved here in this expression. So in culo alla balena, if somebody sells that to you into the whale's ass, in order to keep that as a good luck thing instead of turning into bad luck, you need to say speriamo che non cahi, which means let's hope it doesn't sit. So that's funny to me. Like it brings up defecation and all that, which is a big fear of being anywhere in or near the behind of any creature anyway. So I do hope you enjoyed some of these expressions from different languages around the world. And trust me, I'm still digging in to even other languages that I know even less well to find other expressions that I find interesting. So hopefully that will be the topic of my next video after this one. And so, yeah, thanks for sticking around, and I will see you around next time. Bye-bye.